Well, we're joined this afternoon by one of the original founding members of Prolific Prep, which seems just like yesterday, but it was 2000, 2014, 2015 inaugural season.
Yeah.
And one of Napa's own, Sasha French. Sasha, thanks for joining us this afternoon.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Sasha, if you don't know, he's a 6'11" and a half, 3-point shooting big man that has come a long way. His basketball journey could be like a little mini documentary, just very, very unique. And Sasha's from Napa, raised in Napa. And so, Sasha, talk to us a little bit about, okay, the summer of 2014, getting ready to go into your senior year, and here comes a new program that just pops into your backyard in your city.
Yeah.
And there must have been a whole bunch of things racing through your mind.
Right. Yeah. I think the biggest thing, at the time I was training with Jeremy Rosati, of course, over at Sonoma Academy during the summer. And, my dad was, helping out with getting this whole thing organized. And, I just saw that I was kind of in a little bubble here in Napa. There's not many opportunities to get Division I scholarships, get Division II scholarships, really be seen by any coaches. And I think the biggest thing for me is I just needed that exposure. There's only so much AAU programs can do. You're only getting so much exposure at that level in those circuits. So it was a once in a lifetime. It couldn't have been any better for me. A lot of the other guys were in a situation where they were commuting from, Moraga and, other areas. And for me, it was just, I was the one Napa kid, getting to, experience going and playing on national circuit. It couldn't have been better. It was a life-changing experience for me. So
it was kind of whirlwind because it was really just me and Jeremy.
Yeah.
And we actually leaned on you to kind of be like the Napa mentor. I mean,
Yeah.
taking care of Josh Jackson, you and Miki Lon kind of just almost being like our surrogate parents to help these other kids coming into a program.
Yeah, right. Yep.
And I mean, you got Josh Jackson coming from Detroit, completely different world. We had Kyle Lefroy and just Miki Lon, like you mentioned, and Ryan Stewart and Aljavon Eichelberger. I mean,
people from everywhere. I think that was the biggest thing. It was like, being able to bring all these people in and just kind of right off the bat make it work. I think a lot of programs, they start off and, they have a couple bumps in the road right off the bat. And I feel like we had you and Jeremy did a really good job of just making everything work. You got the Adidas deal, you got everything, you just made everything work. You got the flights and, can't thank you enough for that stuff.
Yeah. And part of it was luck and part of it was fear, right? While I was coaching you guys, I'm thinking about checking into our flights,
yeah,
or making sure like the international students, they got their visas, they got their I-20s. Like sometimes coaching was secondary, third, tertiary. It was just, I almost had too many things going on, and coaching wasn't even the main part of it. But add the international piece. So here we got, Amadou Sow, 15 years old, from Mali. I just spoke to him yesterday, August of 2014. I pick up him and Mamadou Diarra at the airport, and They have no suitcases. They have no backpacks.
I gave him my shoes. I remember that.
I know. So Amadou goes, and I thank God I speak French. I was born in France. My mother's French, and in West Africa, most of the countries speak French. So here I am picking up Amadou. So Amadou had size 7 shoes, but what he did was he cut the ends of it so his feet can stick all the way through like skis. So he had size 7 shoes, but he's wears size 15 shoe. And he had a plastic bag, almost like a Safeway bag. And he had 2 underwears, 2 t-shirts. And then Mamadou Diarra didn't have one bag, nothing. He said, this is what I have. I have shorts, t-shirt, and he had sandals. And here I am picking them up, driving to Napa. Fernandez family, your dad, Philippe, just, connected me with and here we are intermixing international kids with you, Josh Jackson, Mika, kind of
Yep.
surreal.
It was surreal. I think back to when they first stepped on the court, and you could just see that this was such a different experience than they were used to, and it almost like it made you put in perspective for you on like how impactful basketball can be to people's lives, and like the not only the impact we made on their lives, but the impact they made on the Fernandez family and all the other families that helped out. They were just they're amazing human beings, and so it really speaks volumes to the people that you guys recruit. And you guys don't just recruit talented players, you guys recruit good people on and off the court. So I think that definitely speaks volumes to you guys.
Yeah, Amadou mentioned two things that caught my attention yesterday. He said, they're no longer my host family, they're my family. He has two
Yep.
families in the world, one in
Yep.
Mali and one in Napa.
Pretty special.
And yeah, I was taken aback by that, because then a couple other people have said the same thing. Just they're no longer host fam. And then the second thing is, he said, some of it is luck, because you just don't know. You get on an airplane and you have no idea.
Yeah.
We could have been awful people. We could have been. But the few people that he trusted that knew us through basketball basically changed his life. And then while he was here, guys like yourself, or guys like Mika, or guys like Ryan Stewart or Matt O'Reilly, you almost were like an older brother or like father to some of these international kids, because they're in a whole nother world.
Yep, absolutely, definitely. Me and I feel like I definitely connected with everybody, but me and Marco definitely had a connection because my dad knew the host family that he was living with, and I kind of took him under my wing. He didn't really speak any English when he first got here, and
Marco Filipovic.
I remember he was a character. He was a character, but it was a great experience.
Yeah, I always told him Hungary they got better water polo players than they got anything else.
Exactly. Definitely.
Coach, we shoot threes too. We shoot three. Yeah, Barry Urbach, the Urbach family.
Barry Urbach, yep, they're the best.
Oh my gosh, they were some of the families in Napa. They were not just host families for their kids, but they were kind of like host families for some of the other kids helping us. Whether it be Barry connecting us or Aaron Fernandez connecting us. It was a little bit unique because everything was so organic. It was like how everyone wanted to help, but and everybody had just as big a part as us or you guys, but you guys taking the plunge the first year, and then we're getting on airplanes playing. I don't even know what cities we played. We're in Dayton, Ohio,
Paducah, Kentucky. I think we played there twice.
Benton, Kentucky.
Benton, Kentucky, yeah,
Dayton,
all
Ohio,
over the place.
Mustang Madness, Marshall County Hoop Fest, Flying the Hoop.
Flying to the Hoop, I remember that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean
Vegas.
Yeah, Flying the Hoop. We're up 8.
Oh, I remember that game.
50 seconds left against La Lumiere.
Oh, that was a good game.
Oh, place is packed. I'm thinking about flights. I should be thinking about. I don't know if we're going to check in or whatever, and we lose an 8-point lead, and the game goes in overtime. And I mean, a national team that we were playing that literally first year would have been huge for us, but regardless, the experience was more fun than anything else. Just the kind
absolutely.
of the craziness.
Yeah. I think what was cool is, most of us hadn't really been in a situation like that. So every single tournament was a new experience. And, the guys that are in the program now have the luxury of, they've been in those big circuits, and with the exception of Josh, Josh had seen a lot of that stuff, but for the most part, Mika, me, Matt, Ryan, we really hadn't seen much of that stuff. So half of it was just the experience was amazing. So
Baidi Kamagate.
Oh, Baidi. Oh my gosh.
Amadou, Marco. I don't even know how many languages were spoken. One of my former players in high school, Brian Day, who I coached in 1999, 2000. Anyways, he still works for CBS Sports. He just showed a clip when he came in 2014 and filmed us at practice that first year. And I didn't realize that part of the practice, while I'm speaking in English, I have to turn to Mamadou and Amadou and coach them in French.
Because
But
they have no idea what's going on.
I don't know how to. I mean, I speak French, but I don't coach French. You know, I don't coach
Yeah,
basketball
it's
in French.
totally different. Yeah, I got you.
So, and there was he just showed a clip, and I I must have, it must have been very awkward, or it must have been surreal to some of you guys when we're practicing. It's intense because Josh and Kyle Lefroy is super competitive, and
And Jeremy gets pretty heated into it.
yeah, and because he's a trainer, and so I think
Yeah.
Jeremy was more the practice coach, and then I
Yep.
was like the game coach. We kind of had these hats, and
Yep.
so it
Yep.
was, yeah, it was. I mean, we
It
were,
was very unique in a good way.
yeah. You almost wish that we had, like you had a secret camera following us for that first year or so.
Oh my gosh, I totally wish that.
It would have been priceless. So here we are with guys with different languages. Some of them, I mean, Marco, I don't even know if he knew half the things that we were saying. He was just,
Oh,
yeah, he had,
yeah. And no one spoke. It's not like someone spoke Hungarian or anything. At least you spoke a little French and you could get by. But
yeah.
that just made it rough.
Most Americans are only speaking one language, so I couldn't look
Yeah,
to Mika or you or Jeremy like
exactly.
Kyle Lefroy. Can you let me know what Marco's saying? And Kyle's like, I got it. So fast forward, holy smokes! So your career has taken you, and now you're a grad transfer, just finished at the University of Albany. Got your undergraduate degree. Next year, you're gonna, most likely get your MBA. You're gonna figure out where you're gonna go, and you know, some of these experiences that you had, opened some doors for basketball, and you just kind of added to your experiences. And so the sport of basketball, which, prior to your senior year in high school, was just regular local basketball, doing this, not really getting on airplanes, not really AAU. And
Yep.
now fast forward, you have a chance to get your MBA. You're going to go most likely play in Europe. Like,
Yep.
talk to me a little bit about your journey.
Well, I think, first touching on, I think the benefit to playing on those national circuits and doing those kinds of things, if this is what you want to do and you want to make this not only going through college career, but make this a career going on forward, I think the earlier you can start those things, the better. And I think that really made me, more accustomed to that style, that lifestyle, because it's a whole different lifestyle. When you get to the Division I level and you get those high school guys coming in who come from their local high schools, like I would have if I didn't have played for Prolific, they just aren't used to that style. They're not used to how quickly everything goes, and waking up, at 3:00 in the morning to catch a flight, and then getting there and practicing, and then you have a couple of hours downtime, and then doing homework, and it's just balancing. I think the biggest thing is balancing, and it's such an advantage coming from a program like Prolific my senior year to going to the college level. I was really accustomed to that, the pace. You really prepared us for that pace, so I think that was the biggest benefit. But touching on a little bit of my journey, I started at Prolific Prep my senior year. Then I went to the Hun School Princeton as a post-grad in New Jersey. Then I went to the University of San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
After that coaching change, I went to Napa Valley College, had a really successful time there, had a bunch of offers coming out of there, went to committed to the University of Albany, spent 2 seasons there, and then graduated, and now I'm a grad transfer going to Azusa Pacific. So I've had a very untraditional journey, but I wouldn't change a thing. Absolutely not. I wouldn't change a thing. So.
Yeah, you almost could open up a consulting firm to give advice at all the different levels and they all had an important role in terms of
Absolutely.
you
Yeah.
continuing your education, but you continuing the sport of basketball. All those steps, even though they could seem unconventional, you got a chance to experience all these different levels, which kind of adds to your maturity, your intelligence, your maybe awareness of kind of how a journeyman for basketball, kind of what their life is.
Yep. No, I mean, I wouldn't, in my opinion, I wouldn't want a traditional basketball 4 years out of college, because like you're saying, you get a different set of skills, or you improve on a set of skills at every single place that I went. And so every coach, presented his own perspective on the game and kind of helped me change, one or two things about the game. And then, going to the next coach, they would, mold another part of my, skill set. And so it really allowed me to kind of adapt and understand the different parts of the game that I didn't really understand. So.
Yeah. And you're 6'11" and a half, if you're kind of a face up 5'4" because you can really shoot or whatnot. In a traditional world, we would just throw Sasha down at the post and you got to bang it out and, be this. But basketball's changed. And
Yep.
so hopefully you were able to, in your senior year, finally for once, since you're entering a world where we're really big believers in skill development, Jeremy and I, where like whatever you're good at, regardless of your size, is what we want you to do. Even if you struggle a little bit, I want you to shoot more threes.
Yep.
Like not knowing that 6 years later, the game has really, really changed, which is now in your favor because of your skill set. But
Yep.
Coming to a national prep program, I never wanted to coach our guys in a box as to what I think they are.
Yep.
You almost got to kind of evaluate them, and whatever their skills are, allow them to kind of grow into their skill set, even if there's bumps in the road, because there's going to be bumps in the road.
Absolutely. I think that's the biggest advantage Prolific Prep has over the other schools. I obviously don't know how Montverde runs their practices. But, I think for you guys are originally skill development coaches. And I think that is overlooked so often in coaching. And so many coaches just focus on, of course you want the team dynamic and the team chemistry and, all those team aspect pieces to fit in, but you also need to work on the individuals to contribute as a whole, if that makes sense. So I think you guys did such an amazing job. And from my perspective personally, I felt like my skill development just skyrocketed in that, from, beginning of summer going into my senior year to the end of the Prolific Prep season. I felt like I was a completely different player, and I think that was, again, that's the benefit of you guys is, you guys are originally skill development coaches. And while you're not coaching, as a head coach anymore, you're still emphasizing that in your program. And I think that's the big edge that you guys have over a lot of other places. And that's the big reason why you guys are so successful. And you guys, have had such a great past couple of years. And honestly, every year you guys have been successful. So
imagine if you had 4 years like Amadou did.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, Amadou spent he's the only 4-year player in our history. I mean, usually, you're not going to have 4 years. Guys are going to spend 2. I spoke to Jordan Brown's family a couple years ago, and 6'11", 2018 McDonald's All-American, and his dad got drafted, played professionally, and he's like, man, if I only knew, I most likely would have done this 2 or 3 years earlier, because it took Jordan maybe 1 year or 5 or 6 months just to adjust to different style of play, the strength or whatever.
The speed was the biggest thing.
Yeah. And a lot of coaches focus on tactical advantages and X's and O's and how we're going to do this to win a game. Yeah, I want to win every game, which is most coaches do, but I wanted to try to figure out how to make guys better players, because basketball is so skill related.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you're a McDonald's All-American or not. At the end of the day, your skill is going to determine your value at whatever level you're at.
Absolutely. I think you guys did such a good job also of, there were so many guys from different backgrounds, different levels, at least speaking from the year I played there, you had Josh, you had Kyle, who were a little bit ahead of the game. They had, experienced a little bit more of the speed and the intensity and the physicality of the level that we were playing at. And I think for a lot of us, it was a big adjustment, but it's almost like throwing yourself into an environment like that. Either you're going to break or you're going to rise to the level. And, you guys did such a good job of incorporating and making sure everyone was able to adapt to that level. And so, if you guys weren't able to do that so well, I think it would have made it harder for guys to come in that hadn't experienced that before, and you would have had to only focus on the, the Josh Jacksons. But it really allowed you to bring guys in that had the potential, but just weren't there yet. And I think that's what you guys do that really well. So,
And Josh was so competitive. I
oh, he
never,
was so competitive.
like, on the court. I mean, and I've been around a lot of guys. He's just so competitive. And like watching this little series with the Chicago Bulls or whatever, the documentary on ESPN.
Yeah,
I'm
last
having
dance. Yeah.
I'm having many flashbacks of 2014, 2015 prolific prep. Here we have an alpha dog, top 3 player in the class, and probably out competed most. And where I wish we could have I just wish we had more time with Josh to continue to work on his skill. But Josh was we got to make sure academically and just adapt to a new environment. And but his competitive fire, and he actually like fueled the confidence. I remember Mika Elon, like when Josh once said, like, Mika, we need you, like, shoot open shots. And so here you have like a Paxson from the Bulls, and you have obviously like Michael Jordan. Josh's competitive fire was really good for you guys, because immediately you're like, I got to raise my intensity.
Yep.
Just in our practices were guy they every they you guys wanted to win so bad at practices. It was very unique. It was something that's one of the things I really remember, the super competitive practices.
Absolutely. I think it was nice coming from a local high school and stuff like that, where you didn't really have everyone on the same page. And on that team, I remember we would, every single practice, everyone was happy to be there. Everyone wanted to get better. They wanted to improve on every skill they could, every single practice, and maximize their time. And that was such a new experience for me, because when you come from a normal program, you got the guys that are just on the team because their parents want them to be on the team, but they're really talented and X, Y, and Z. So it was so cool coming from, maybe not everyone was on the same level of skill, but everyone put 110% effort into everything we did. I still remember the dribble cadence drills we do with you, and you would, run us through them, and everyone would just go at it. And I think I haven't been on a team where I've had that ever, even at the Division I level, on a consistent basis from everyone. So
Yeah.
it was that was pretty cool. And Josh was scary. He was, but in a good way. He would call you out if you did something wrong. That if you were slacking, he would whip you into shape right away. So
Yeah, I remember during games, like Josh would try to coach, which was fine, but I'd bring Josh over and be like, look, like, everybody's watching you. So if you have a message to tell me, we got to do some type of code, because I can't just react to everything you say and we're going to do. I mean,
yeah,
Aljavon Eichelberger.
not LeBron.
Yeah, Aljavon Eichelberger misses free throws. We got to work through it. You know what I mean? Cal
Yeah.
Lefroy, whatever. So actually that helped me. If I eventually became a coach, which I that wasn't one of my goals, but it was actually good for me to kind of deal with like somebody like that. And Josh off the court actually, really was just a really, really caring. He really cared about you guys, regardless, like you said, of the talent level. And some of our international kids coming for the first time over, it's not easy. Amadou was just learning how to play.
Yep.
Amadou and Mamadou Diarra was just, I mean, these kids, they don't understand English. So
Yep.
have you been able, this past year, overtime, spent about 5 months with the team, and then produce like a little mini documentary, where every Sunday they're releasing 12-minute episodes. Have you seen any of the documentary from overtime?
I haven't, but I would love to see it. That
Yeah.
sounds
So
awesome.
yeah, I'll forward you a link. And all the I talked to a couple of guys who have seen it. It just brings back the memories of like the trips. They're like racing to the airport at Oakland to make sure we got on flights, and game days, we had walkthroughs and then pregame, and then we had guys would do homework, and then the games would be intense, and then you'd fly back and didn't know what city you were in. So it brought back a lot of unique memories. But
I have a funny story real quick about you. And we were driving to LA because it was the first time we went to LA. We drove instead of flew on a Friday, and we were going through Livermore when you go over that hill, and it was bumper to bumper traffic because there's a car accident, and a giant like ambulance goes on the shoulder, and they're just flying off, and you go, you know what, we need to get there, and you just pull off and you just haul ass right behind that ambulance for about 5 miles, and everyone's like, this guy is nuts. And I just distinctly remember you were just so calm. You're like, this is what we're doing. We're going to get there and it's going to happen.
I was drafting. I was like simulating I was in NASCAR. I can just draft behind this emergency vehicle because why not?
In a van, not in anything that has any sort of like ability to go fast, just a van.
Yeah. And then when we get to LA, I can't even find the place where we're supposed to play. And then it was just, those were some days back, 2014, 2015. So last thing here, any advice for high school kids who are serious about the game like you were? Obviously everybody's in different situation. You were in a small town in Napa, and you know, you were restricted to what was surrounding you, whether it's teammates that liked the game as much as you or not as much, or your coaches, or maybe it was a hobby for some, or it was maybe, exercise for others. But, for you, you had a love for the game, and, you had serious, any advice for kids around the country as they're trying to figure out their best path to maximize their individual career?
Well, I could sit here and give the traditional advice, work hard, blah, 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 blah. But some untraditional advice I could give that was really, life-changing for me was when I think it was beginning of my junior year, about around Christmas time, my mom bought a little, package for this training camp. And it was Jeremy Rosati's training camp at Napa Valley College. And it was during Christmas break. And honestly, I thought it was the stupidest thing ever. And I was like, this is just silly. I don't even know who this guy is. Like, I don't know anything about Jeremy Rosati. And, I ended up, maybe it might've been my sophomore year. And so I was like, so I went and tried it out, and it ended up leading me to Prolific Prep. If I hadn't have gone to that one training camp, I wouldn't have played for the NorCal Wildcats. I wouldn't have, met you. I wouldn't have done any of that. So my advice to kids that are serious about the game is immerse yourself in every possible outlet of basketball camps, stuff, right now there's no ability to go train with people. So immerse yourself in, YouTube, go find videos, like just every branch and outlet you can find might lead you to a life-changing experience like it did for me. So that's the biggest advice I could give.
I didn't know that. I didn't know what the connection was, because I would help Jeremy in the summer with his training program. And, I would stop in once a week or whatever. And you had kids from everywhere. You just didn't know how they knew about it or whatever. And, Jeremy had a gift. He can really, really, and he had a little camp for probably 2 days in Napa.
And it was all little kids. I was like the oldest guy, but I was a sophomore, and at the time I was playing for North Bay basketball, which wasn't bad, but it didn't have any coaches coming to the games for AAU, and that was what put me in a place to, be seen, have opportunities, and, ultimately play for Prolific Prep. So
and you were probably just trying to get better in those 2 days at the camp. Maybe you learned something, maybe use it. Maybe use it selfishly as a chance to get 300 shots up in an organized setting where, it's not a big deal. At least I'll have a passing partner or something sometime, but then you don't know how it affects you.
And the other thing is, you never know who's watching, obviously Jeremy saw something, like this guy's, obviously restricted, as you were saying, in the area he's in. Napa isn't really known to produce, college basketball players for the most part. It is now, but because of you guys, but so if I think another piece of advice I could give kids is, you never know who's watching. You never know. It doesn't have to be a college coach. It could just be a Philippe Doherty or a Jeremy Rosati, and they know someone who knows someone who knows someone. And that puts a foot in the door to another opportunity. So you just got to always work hard, and it doesn't matter where you are. If it's 10-year-olds you're playing basketball with, you just got to if you're passionate about it, you got to always take it seriously.
That's a good point because a couple years ago, do you know who David Griffin is? David Griffin is
Yep.
the president of the New Orleans Pelicans.
Yep.
And so he wins an NBA title as the general manager with the Cleveland Cavaliers, right? They beat the Warriors in 2016, 17 or whatever. And
Yep.
then he had contract disputes with the owner and he gets fired after winning an NBA title.
Right.
And his wife is a culinary expert and a dietitian. And so they moved from Cleveland to the Napa area. And he's there, doing some TV gigs in Atlanta, a couple days a week, flying back to Atlanta. But he's just waiting for his next job. And so over the course of 2 years, David Griffin, who most of us didn't really like, we didn't really know, would stop into practice because a friend of Jeremy's knew David, and David's like, "Hey, go, just you're a basketball junkie. You have nothing to do in the afternoons."
Right.
He has engagements in the evenings on radio shows and all the other stuff. So David Griffin, who's the current Pelicans president, he would come and watch practice and just sit in the corner of the gym. And no one really, I mean, me and Jeremy knew who he was, right? And so after like a couple months, David would jump into film sessions with Coach Billy and be like, "Hey, can I point out a couple things?" And so in the middle of Napa in a gym, you have a 5'8" white guy who is the general manager of the Cleveland Cavaliers who casually watches practice, right? Because he's
Yeah.
bored in the afternoon, his wife's at work, and he's got engagements at night with NBA TV and other stuff. He just happens to be living in the Napa area, and so for 2 years, some of our guys were rubbing elbows with a future president of an NBA franchise, and they had
Yep.
no idea. And we were in a small town of Napa, but David Griffin was there because of his wife, and then we were there because of basketball.
Yep.
And potentially down the road, a Namari Burnett, some of these guys potentially could be in a draft situation where David Griffin had prior experience.
And
Kind of like
that's the leg up,
you never know who's what.
You
I
never
mean,
know.
you
Never know.
never. Yeah, it's just very, very unique. So,
Yeah.
well, we could be here all day. I mean, you're one of our founding players. Your family, your mom and dad, believed in us, and your dad to this day I speak to probably every 2 weeks. One of the more genuine human beings I've ever been around. Very, very genuine. But
Yep.
from our program, from everybody here at Prolific and our coaching staff and our past coaches, thanking one of the original founding members of our team and the one original Napa resident. I mean, literally the one Napa resident
Yep.
who, as a teenager, opened the doors to kids that were going to put on the Prolific Prep jersey, 5-6 years after you. 13 countries, 40 division, 1 and 2 scholarships. And so you are almost like a founding father, so to speak. So we want to thank you for everything that you've done.
I should be the one thanking you guys. You guys are the sole reason I got to play Division I. I got, free school, and I don't have student debt. So I can't, and puts me in a position to play after college. So I should be thanking you guys because you guys changed my life. Not even a question.
No, we appreciate that. Hopefully you get your rest during coronavirus, but still get your workouts in. And
yep, I'm trying to stay busy.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll see you here very shortly in Napa. So thanks again, Sasha French, 2014, 2015 original Prolific Prep team member. Thank you again.
Absolutely. Thank you.